All right, I'm John Jorgensen, and welcome to another episode of the Go with John show. Today, we have Rob Moore with us from Beltway Pools. Welcome, Rob.
Thank you, John.
So, Rob, tell us a little bit about just a real quick synopsis on what does your company do? Give us kind of the cliff notes here at the beginning of the show.
So we're a pool service company for residential pools primarily.
Okay.
We do maintenance, repairs, pool cleanings. We do renovations on existing pools.
Right.
We are not a pool builder.
Right.
But other than that, once your pool's built, we can pretty much take care of anything.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So everything from renovations to maintenance, and then you have regular pool like service contracts. So if somebody has a pool, you'll come in once a week. Do you come once a week, once a month? How do you guys do that?
We have packages. We have weekly packages. We have bi-weekly packages. It really depends on the customer and their know-how to maintain the pool themselves.
Gotcha.
Sometimes we just go open their pool and winterize it at the end of the year. They take care of the rest.
Okay.
Sometimes they know what to do, but people in this area are constantly traveling, and they just need a little bit of help. So,
Right.
We'll go bi-weekly for them. And then some people have no idea what they're doing, and, we go weekly to, basically take care of the whole process.
Yeah, that would be me. I have no idea. So how did you get into the pool business?
This was about 15 years ago. I was on low times at that point, and my mother actually was a property manager at one of the local communities in Alexandria.
Okay.
And her pool company, the owner of the current pool company she was with, maintaining the commercial pools with apartment buildings, HOAs, and stuff. He said he was looking for people. I needed a job at the time.
Right.
And the rest is history.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So what is it you like best about work? Like, what has kept you in the business for all these years?
Money's good.
Yeah.
That's one for sure. I mean, it's a niche I fell into. I didn't think I'd be doing this 15 years later if you would have asked me.
Yeah.
But you stick to something, you develop a skill set. It almost becomes such an investment that you're just like I don't want to start over with something else.
Right.
So that's pretty much. I mean, what I like about it the most is probably what I dislike about it the most. Sometimes, you just never know what to expect day to day.
Right.
It's, so many situations are different. You do get to meet a lot of interesting people, form some relationships with them.
Yeah.
Personally, the part I like the best is probably, talking to pleasant customers and,
Right.
forming relationships with them. I truly enjoy that.
Yeah. So what do when you and I were speaking yesterday on the phone, we talked about some of the things that you kind of come across because you guys do renovations, and I think one of the most interesting things that I would like to learn today is what are the types of things what types of mistakes have people made in building their pools that you've had to come back and kind of fix when you do the renovation? What goes wrong with initial builds that you have to renovate?
Well, a lot of the pools, you'll find different. I mean, there's so many pool builders, and everybody does things a little different.
Right.
And it's not necessarily right or wrong or, something that's messed up can be cleaned up or fixed. A lot of the renovations we do primarily are pools that have been built and they've, stood the test of time. They've exhausted the materials that are on their pool, and it's time to, give it a facelift. So there is so many. I mean, to, sum it up with our limited time, I would say, the three primary things on a renovation are your coping stones around your pool,
Right.
your tiles around your pool,
Right.
and your plaster surface. So, when you're looking at your plaster surface, a lot of times, the surfaces get worn down. Plaster starts to get more porous. Algae will settle in. You'll get blooms everywhere of algae. The pool becomes harder to maintain. That being said, with tile and coping, you usually have caulk joints behind your coping. If it gets worn down, it's over the weather, you should replace it every couple of years. We run into customers that don't do that, or they weren't recommended by the company maintaining it, or they just don't approve it when you're recommending. That happens a lot.
Sure.
What ends up happening is, water can get behind the pool shell. Then you get freeze expansion in the winter.
Right.
You start creating, hollow areas under your stones behind your tiles. Tile starts to fall off the pool. And at that point, you're at anytime you maintain a pool, you should really, keep up with the maintenance. It's like changing the oil in your car. If you don't change your oil in your car, you're going to blow a head gasket or something, and it's going to cost you even more money to fix it. So I urge customers that if you are in a situation where you're recommended by a pool company, I mean, you can get a second opinion if you would like, but you should go ahead and take care of the problem while it's going to be cheaper to fix.
Right. So you think, one of the big things I hear is the caulking under the coping. Is that kind of a big deal?
Yeah,
Is it expensive to replace that?
No, I would say on average, I mean, expensive is relative to who you're talking to.
Sure.
I would say, on an average size residential pool, you're looking at around $1,000 to rip out the caulk.
Right.
But a lot of times when we're proposing stuff, and this is all over the pool industry, and I think this is important for pool owners to understand. A lot of prices that pool companies provide appear very expensive. But a lot of things you do on a pool look simple to the eye, but are more intricate when you get into it.
Right.
When you take out caulking, you have to wait for the joint to dry out. You don't want to necessarily just rip it out and install it the same day.
Yeah.
It's not going to hold up. It's going to bubble. You don't want to do it when the temperature's too cold.
Yeah.
In the springtime, that's when the weather's a little unpredictable. You don't know. It's probably the most unpredictable weather of the year. You get rain unexpectedly. You get freezing temperatures at night sometimes. Sometimes it's great. And we have to conform to that. And there's a lot of juggling and maintaining a balance. In the pool industry, you have probably until, from like February, March until May or June to really, you have to like February, March till May or June to really, make your money, do your business, Once the summer hits, a lot of times, I mean, you'll get a few jobs here and there, but it's mostly maintaining the pools that are up and running.
Right.
Everybody wants pools open around Memorial Day or right before Memorial Day.
Right.
And, pool companies, to make a living, you have to take on as many jobs as possible in that small frame of time.
Yeah.
And that's everybody. So, we do the best we can, all of us in the industry, not just us. And, sometimes customers will run a little impatient, but we're doing the best we can with what we're, dealt. In the past couple of years, with COVID hitting, there's been a lot of shortages on chemicals. There's been a lot of, problems in that area obtaining parts, materials.
Right.
Resin was a shortage, Resin's made for PVC plumbing.
Yep.
And, so therefore price goes up.
Yep.
Then our price passes on to the customer.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but that's just the nature of it. Computer chips, those have been a big problem. A lot of our salt generators and people like salt systems or our pool heaters, they require chips.
Yeah.
So, we get shortages of that. So, we do the best we can with what we're dealing with. But if you're dealing with a company that's having problems getting stuff, I'd try to encourage you to stick it out with them.
Yeah.
Because chances are, if you go somewhere else, you're going to run into the same problem, whether they tell you that or not.
Right. So what is? So let's talk a little bit about saltwater pools versus freshwater pools, because I know there's been a big transition over the last decade, really, from people going to the saltwater pool. So what's your opinion on the two? Are there pros and cons, or?
Yeah, well, if you ask different people, you'll get two different answers.
Sure. So what do you think?
Well, customers, pool contractors, and naturally, I think in any industry, they like to recommend and work with what they're familiar with.
Right.
Salt has been around for a while, but in the grand scheme of things, it's relatively new.
Sure.
People like salt because it softens the water.
Yeah.
It's less irritable on their skin.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't know is that when you are using a salt system, you add salt to the pool, it passes through a generator called a salt cell, and it generates it into chlorine.
Right.
So you're still getting the chlorine in the pool, but salt cells are beneficial because it makes the pool more self-maintainable. Mm-hmm. You don't have to make chemical adjustments as much. Mm-hmm. Salt is corrosive. If you have salt and add a salt system and you have a heater with copper tubes, which is mostly what they'll install. If you don't have a salt system, you need to switch over to a titanium heater with a titanium heat exchanger or Cooper nickel tubes, so it can sustain and last more than 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. Opposed to a copper tubing, which salt's going to corrode and rust. Mm-hmm. It's going to bleed stains into your pool, onto your plaster. So from that standpoint, I encourage everybody to go salt right now, especially because of the chlorine shortage.
Right.
Salt is still available in good quantity, and depending on the electrical situation you have at your pool, you can get a brand new salt system for around $3,000. But that takes out the chlorine usage. A lot of companies last year, we had calls for probably in like August, I would say, from a lot of customers that were like our pool owners that were using another company, and they said, hey, my company ran out of chlorine, they can't maintain my pool anymore. And we took on what we could, but we were with that challenge too. Thank God we made it through the summer. But if you get the salt, you have less problems to worry about with that.
Right.
When you sell your house, it's more attractive. If you say I have a saltwater pool, whether people know what it is or not, they know the reputation of it. They know the stereotype of it.
Yeah.
They're going to want to buy that house, with knowing there's a saltwater pool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good information. So I think sounds like if you were going to put a pool in your house, would it be saltwater or freshwater?
I'd probably go with the salt water because I have access to the direct pricing. So
I got you. I got you. All right, this is a great spot for us to take a quick break. I'm John Jorgensen. We'll be back with more with Rob Moore from Beltway Pools. Stay tuned. A lot of folks think that building a custom home is a complicated and arduous process. It doesn't have to be. At Stanley Martin Custom Homes, we have the process down to a science. We will bring you through the buying, design, and building phase one step at a time. Head on over to webuildonyourlot.com and check us out. Reach out to us if you want to get started on the path to your very own Stanley Martin Custom Home. This is John Jorgensen with the Go With John show, and we're back with Rob Moore and Beltway Pools. So, Rob, tell us a little bit about when you do some renovations and you go in there, what kind of general design flaws do you have to overcome? What have you run into that maybe the original builder didn't get quite right that you've got to correct?
Well, I think the more fair way to approach this is if you're planning to get a pool, let's start with the first step.
Right.
I would talk to the pool builder. Placement of the pool is very important.
Right.
You don't want a pool very close to your house.
Okay.
If it leaks, I've seen flooded basements before.
I have seen that too. Absolutely.
And that flood restoration gets expensive.
Yes, it does.
So, some places, some setups, in tighter city areas, they don't have an option but to do that. So if you really want a pool, I would get some contractor out there to check your waterproofing. Mm-hmm. Make sure at least that you're preparing yourself to prevent anything that could possibly happen.
Right.
Another thing is a lot of backyards are You got an uphill, downhill situation.
Right.
It's always better if you can help it to place a pool uphill. There's hydrostatic pressure in the ground. A lot of people don't know that. So what hydrostatic pressure is when it rains, the ground underneath the pool, builds up pressure.
Right.
There are hydrostatic valves inside the floor of your pool that most of the time are spring loaded, sometimes not. But that valve will open up if the pressure, and if you empty your pool, sometimes you get groundwater coming through that because the pressure in the ground is more than the pressure in the pool.
Right. And better for the valve to open and let the water in than the pressure break the concrete.
Right. Well, what ends up happening, and we've seen this before, it's very rare, but a whole entire concrete pool will lift out of the ground.
I've seen it. You can actually look it up online.
Yeah,
Yep.
Absolutely. 3, 4, 5 inches.
It's crazy, isn't
it? If you're lucky, it'll go back down. But at that point, pipes are broken.
Yeah.
A lot of room for ground settlement gets created.
Yeah.
So, if you're uphill, you're not dealing with that as much. But if you're getting a pool renovated, you should always, if your pool's going to be empty for an extended period of time, more than a few weeks, it would be recommended to pull those plugs out. Sometimes you have to pull them out. Even the spring-loaded ones can be faulty.
Sure.
So you don't want that issue, because then you're getting into thousands of dollars for repairs. And
right.
So when you're winterizing your pool, a lot of people ask this question. They're like, "You going to empty my pool out?" No, we're going to drain it down about 18 inches where the frost line is around here. But we need to keep weight in that pool for that very reason. So, but back to your question. So, placing things uphill, placing it is in reference to your house. That's another thing. Electrically, when you're getting things installed, make sure everything's up to code. Make sure that the company that you're with is pulling the proper permits. You don't want to go sell your house later and then a good inspector comes in with the home inspection.
Right.
And he can find that you don't have things to code.
Right.
That could, in certain counties, I know Fairfax County for sure is a real big stickler on stuff like that.
Right.
And you don't want to get stuck with that.
Right.
Sometimes when you buy a house, you're buying other people's problems.
Right.
So that would be one thing. I
would say electricity, sorry to interrupt you, but electricity and water, you want to make sure.
Yeah, you also want to make sure things are properly grounded, bonded. You don't, that could be a huge issue. So I would really, take all that into consideration. Another thing is just, when you're getting your pool built, if you're not getting all the features, and maybe you want to get some later down the road, talk to your your pool builder, and tell them, I may be interested in an automation system later that'll operate things automatically.
Right.
I may be interested in putting a rock wall or waterfall on this pool later. That design may change a little to easily allow for that stuff later. But most of the time, when you're getting a pool built, it's better to get all the features at once. It's going to be cheaper for you,
right?
Because they're not coming back in to redo something.
Right.
They are doing it from scratch. So that's encouraged. A lot of pool builders right now in this industry, since COVID, remarkably, with people losing jobs and struggling with money, the demand for pool builds has skyrocketed.
Right, because people have been trapped at home.
Yeah. And, a decent concrete pool build can be like $150,000.
Right.
So it is an expense. A lot of them will finance and work with you. But I can tell you the major builders around here are booked out all the way through 2023.
It's crazy.
They're just so stacked up. I get calls about it all the time. So, again, it's something you got to plan for carefully. Talk to them about the stuff I mentioned. I think those are the main importance, is the location of the pool, placement of it, if you have a hill, and also to, prepare for the future if you want to add additional things. And if you could swing it, go ahead and get it all installed at one time.
That's great advice. Yeah. Fantastic. So let's move on to the next. We got a couple more things we want to try to hit before we run out of time. So tell us, you've got a story you brought for us today.
Oh, yeah. You asked me if I had any entertaining stories.
Yeah. Well, we
yeah.
do want to entertain the audience.
Yeah, I'll give you a 2-for-1 special here. So,
Okay.
I'll let you know a funny pool story, and also let you know how I met my wife at the same time.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, I worked commercial pools for 10 years.
Okay.
And with commercial pools, you are getting a lot of companies are getting lifeguards from Eastern Europe primarily,
Right.
that come over and work on a J1 work and travel visa through the State Department.
Sure.
That's depleted a lot in the last couple of years, which has made commercial pools struggle a lot as well. But anyways, so back in 2009, I met what would be my wife. She's from Ukraine.
Right.
And she came over and worked. She worked at this pool in Alexandria for about 3 years. She eventually became the pool manager there. Mm-hmm. So I was her supervisor. So, we met on very unprofessional circumstances. Anyway, I got a phone call one day from a kid that was probably 14, 15. He was a patron of the pool.
Right.
And he said, hey, your lifeguard called me a douchebag. And there was 2 guards at this pool, so I had a 50-50 chance it was the girl I was dating. So I was like, okay. I said, what did she look like? He described exactly my wife. And I was like, great. So I'm going to be stuck between the company I'm working with and the girl I'm dating.
Right.
So not a good position to be in. So I gave her a call, and I said, first I was kind of impressed, like she's still learning English, that's a pretty advanced word. So
Right.
I end up calling her on the phone, and I said, hey, I just got a call here. Like, did you call a kid a douchebag? He goes, I absolutely did. He was being one.
Yeah.
And I said, you can't do that. She goes, why not? That was the truth. I was like, that's not how it works here. I said, what was he doing? She said he was taking all the kids' toys in the pool, and the parents were complaining. So I said, hey, douchebag, get out of my pool. You're done. I took his pool pass, and he's not coming back. And I was like, you're going to create a big problem for me here. Their parents are going to call. He's a minor. This is going to get out of hand.
Yeah.
So anyway, about a day later, I get a phone call from a random number, and I answer it, and it's the father of this kid.
Right.
And I'm just slapping myself in the forehead going, here we go.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, my child came home and said that your lifeguard called my son a douchebag. And I was like, yeah, I heard about that. I said, I am very sorry, sir. I said, I apologize. They are from Eastern Europe. The culture's different. They're learning stuff here. That's part of the program.
Right.
I've handled it. And he goes, no. He said, I don't want you to apologize. He said, my kid's always a douchebag. And he said, I wanted to go over there and commend her for doing that because he needs to learn a lesson.
Right.
And, I was like, man, there's still parents around that, are teaching their kids discipline.
Right.
So, it ended up working out in the end. But,
that is funny.
Very nervous situation at the time. So,
yeah, fantastic. So that is great. So how long have you been married?
It'll be 12 years this September.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. So in wrapping up our conversation today, thank you for sharing that, by the way. It's a great story.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in wrapping up the conversation today, tell us a little bit about what makes your company great. So this is kind of the part of the show where I want to give you the floor to if there's folks listening that have a pool, maybe they're not happy with their pool service company, why should they call your company, and what are the benefits of using Beltway Pools?
Well, this is what I'll tell anybody. We'll never trash another competitor. It's for us, it's in bad taste. It shows no class.
Sure.
We're all out there trying to make a living. Mm-hmm. But I tell people that all pool companies pretty much do the same thing. They get materials from the same people. Mm-hmm. They're going to try to execute the job in mostly the same ways. I think what separates pool companies primarily is the basic fundamental of customer service.
Right.
That's what's going to separate the good companies from the bad companies. We are very big on customer service. Every company has a mission statement. Mm-hmm. Our mission statement, at the end of our mission statement, it says we treat you like a neighbor, not a number. Mm-hmm. We want to form personal relationships with people. I want to know you on a first name basis. Mm-hmm. when people call me and, they say, hey, Rob, then that makes me feel good. I know I've established that connection. I know they know I'm in their corner. They can call me for issues. Communication's another big one. There's a lot of people that'll run into issues and they duck and hide from the customer until they find out, what the answer is. Just reach out to them. Tell them what it is. Yeah. It may not be the most popular answer at the time, but trust me, homeowners appreciate that. Give them an update, even if the update is I have no update. Right. It definitely helps. So, with that being said, I think our slogan for our company is built with passion, driven by integrity. You got to be, integrity to us is doing the right thing when nobody's looking. Making sure that customers are taken care of. Not only because you want to make the money, that's why we're in business, but, to show them that you care. We have customers that fall on hardships, everybody does, or they'll suffer a loss in their family. And, and we reach out to them and not to even talk about pools, just to say, hey, how are you doing? Or reach out to text someone to say, hey, happy birthday, or hey, I saw on Facebook your kid graduated. It is about the pools, but at least for me, if we were just focusing on the pools, this job would get very boring.
Right. Well, and you wouldn't hold any position with any company for 15 years if you were not about the people.
Yeah. I mean, there are some out there that are strictly about the business. But with me, I like to relate to the people. It makes me enjoy my job more. It gives me a rewarding experience at the end of the day. I want to go to bed every night and know that I did the right thing by everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody makes mistakes. Own up to it. Be forthcoming. Be honest. Communicate well with the customer and show them you care more. You care past their pocketbook.
Fantastic. Well, Rob Moore, thank you for coming in today. Really enjoyed the conversation. Rob Moore with Beltway Pools. What's your website?
We're at www.beltwaypools.com.
Well, there you go. That's a winner. And your phone number, how can people reach you if they want to call?
You can call us at 703-665-5333. It directs directly to my cell phone number, so you'll talk to me directly.
Dial the digits. Rob Moore, thank you for coming in. This concludes another episode of the Go With John Show. I'm John Jorgensen, and go out there and build something extraordinary. We just wrapped up a great conversation with Ray Greenstreet with greenstreetgardens.com. Take a listen to his episode. You're going to really hear how passionate he is about gardening. If you have questions about gardening, send it to inthedirt@greenstreetgrowers.com. If you want to visit his retail website, check him out at greenstreetgardens.com. Ray Greenstreet. Great story, great product, 3 locations, 1 in Maryland, 2 in Virginia. You can find them online. When you get in touch with them over there at Green Street, let them know that you heard them here on the Go With John Show.